Good afternoon. So let me just continue. We started talking about inequalities and then we started solving some simple more or less problems. Today I want to increase the level of difficulty a little bit. If you remember, we started with just simple equations and then we started learning about equations with denominators. That is also the same situation here, yes? So what we want to do, we want to solve now a little bit harder problems, including inequalities with denominators. And I think nothing is that new for you here. I want to write an example. I want to solve one example and explain it for you. And if you don't have any problems, I will write more, and I want to wait for you to solve them for me. For example, let me start solving this problem. So solve the following inequalities. And represent the solution graphically. So, number one. For example, let me write this. 2x plus 1 divided by 3 minus 3x plus 1 divided by 2 is greater than or equal to x. So we want to solve an equality. Let me do a little bit of recap of what we have learned so far. So when I ask you to solve an equality, I mean to find all possible values for x, so that when you replace x with those values, this inequality turns out to be a true statement. That is the meaning of solving the inequality. And I told you that more or less everything is similar to solving an equation. But there is one single point that you have to be careful about, and that is when you want to divide by a negative value. Because the point is to make x alone on the left-hand side, and sometimes, usually most of the times, you really need to divide by a number so that to make x alone at the end. But sometimes that number turns out to be negative. When you divide by a negative number, you need to remember you have to flip the sign from greater than to less than, or the other way around. So that's the only thing that you need to remember. So do you remember, if I give you this as an equation equals to this, because this has fractions, the first thing that you do, find the least common denominator between all fractions and you multiply the whole package by that number. This will simplify the denominators and turns this into a simpler inequality. I will do the same thing here. So between 3 and 2, it is clear that the least common denominator is 6. So I multiply everything by 6. So let me be patient and write it properly this time. You don't need to write all the details. Yeah, it is better to do some part in your head, but let me just, for the first time at least, write everything. So between 3 and 2, I realize that the least common denominator is 6, so I multiply everything by 6. When I multiply the left-hand side by 6, I have to multiply the right-hand side by 6, but 6 is a positive number. I really don't need to change anything about the direction of this sign. I have to keep it. I have to keep it the same. But then what you need to learn is to take this 6 as before and multiply it into this fraction. But before multiplying and writing 12x plus 6, don't do that. In your head, divide 6 by 3, it becomes 2 times, and then you need to multiply 2 in the numerator. So it becomes 2 times 2x plus 1. And now you take this and multiply it here. But before that you have a negative sign, so let me put the negative sign here. Again, do not multiply 6 in the numerator. in your head divide 6 by 2, it becomes 3 times, and then multiply that 3 in the numerator. And then on the right hand side you have greater than or equal to 6x. So you see it's very, very similar to what you learned for equalities. And then you need to simplify. So what I do, I expand that. 2 times 2x is 4x, and then 2 times 1 is positive 2. But here again, be careful about your algebra. You have minus 3 that you have to multiply here and here. So the first one becomes minus 9x, and be careful, the second one also becomes negative 3. And on the right hand side you just copy and paste that part because there is nothing we can do for that. But I can simplify. 4x minus 9x is negative 5x. 2 minus 3 is minus 1 is greater than or equal to 6x. And then I am supposed to move everything containing x to the left and everything not containing x to the right, and I have to be careful that I have to change the negative to positive, positive to negative in this transferring from one side to the other. So I will have minus 5x. I am supposed to move 6x to the left, but 6 is positive. When I move it, it becomes negative 6x. I keep the sign the same, and I move minus 1 to the right, it becomes positive 1. But minus 5x minus 6x is minus 11x, and then that is greater than or equal to 1. And now this is the important part, because it is not finished yet. I want to make x alone, so I have to divide by this number to get rid of this to make x alone. So let me write it patiently. I take this one and I take this one. I have to divide both sides by negative 11. But because I am dividing by a negative number to make x alone, the only thing that I have to be careful, I have to change the direction of this sign. The direction of this sign is the greater than or equal to, so I have to write it as less than or equal to. And the rest of it, this minus 11 and that minus 11 are totally gone, so I really have x alone. And then less than or equal to, I myself prefer, instead of writing this negative sign here, I myself prefer to write it in front of the fraction. It doesn't matter, of course. So this is what I need to give me the answer. Don't put this in the calculator. Yes, keep it exactly like that. And now the last part represents the solution graphically. And you really don't need to be very strict or very precise in what you do, but the order of numbers are important. So you draw a line. This is supposed to be the x-axis. What I ask you to do is to locate some point that you like for the origin, and then try to see minus 1 over 11. Okay, minus 1 over 11 definitely is on the left-hand side. So you really don't need to be careful about finding minus 1 over 11. What matters is minus 1 over 11 is somewhere on the left-hand side. Yes? The next thing that I really care about in grading you is that are you paying attention that this equality holds here or not? So if this equality is there, you have to draw the circle. If the equality is not there, leave it hollow. But if this is not the case, it is included, you have to show me that you are filling it up. So it means that this is acceptable. And then x should be less than that, so it would be on the left-hand side. So you need to somehow color this part with a different color and put this arrow on top. So all the green parts that you see is representing that solution. Yeah, is that understandable? So this is at most the highest level that you get in the exam. So an inequality with fractions. Any questions here? Okay, now I want to write some of these and ask you to practice to see how this will go, okay? I will pause the recording and then I will write this one for you. There's some similar questions. Anything here? Any questions? Yes. So let me just write different questions for you. I don't need to record this, I will record it later. Okay, so you start solving this. Of course, I will write a little bit more tricky one at the end. This is not at the level of the book, but I want to see how do you think about that, okay? So, but I expect you to be able to solve these three first ones. This is at the level of the exam for the a little bit higher level questions. But what do you think about this? Let me write one of them simple first. Number 5. So I would write optional, okay? So x minus 5 divided by 3 less than 2x minus 5 less than or equal to 1 minus x over 2. So I want you to interpret what does it mean and try to give me what would be the solution of this double inequality. But for the time being, don't concentrate on that one. Try to solve these three ones first. So you see what I'm saying is that if you have an inequality of this 4, a is less than x, let me write without x, a is less than b less than c. This is a short way of writing a is less than b, and this symbol means and, as I told you, b is less than c. Of course, if I tell you, can I multiply everything by 2, the answer is yes, because you can multiply this by 2 separately, this by 2 separately, and then you have two things. You can see that 2a is less than 2b. On the other hand, 2b itself is less than 2c. Another way of looking at this is 2a is less than 2b is less than 2c. So the reason that you actually can multiply this by 2 on all three sides is because even if whenever you want to answer a question related to this, you need to imagine it as two sentences, two statements, and then to see that if I do the same thing here and the same here, can I combine it back to go there or not? So if A is less than B less than C, some people read it in this way. They say B is between A and C, which is of course correct way of reading. Yes? Yes. So multiplying, for example, can I multiply by negative 2? The answer is again yes, I can multiply by negative 2. But of course I have to swap the sign. That's also possible. But can I move A from the left-hand side here to the right-hand side there? No. Because A and B are related together, B and C are related together. This is good to know. For example, can I add D to every side? This I can do. Yes, why? Because if you interpret this in that way, I can add D to both sides. I can add D to both sides. And then what I get is that A plus D is less than B plus D, B plus D itself is less than D plus C, and if you compare them, it means that this is the case. So some of the things that you can do for one inequality can be done for this type of inequalities, but some of them cannot be done. The point is that if you are interested to solve the harder problems, you need to interpret them. But before going to that, let me make sure that first of all you understand what is going on, which is necessary for the exam, and then I will come back and solve that one. If you are completely sure about this, you don't need to listen to me, you just need to work on that one. But if you are not sure about this, listen to me when I am explaining, you can learn. Okay, so how should I do that one here? Let me solve this one, for example. Well, because we don't have that much time, let me start with this one with negative sign in between, and the numbers are a little bit bigger. So, number 3, so what should I do? I multiply everything by which number? Between 3 and 9 and 8. What is the least common denominator? Yes?
72.
72. I think we cannot find a smaller than that, can we? No. So 72 is the smallest number. So I multiply everything by 72. This becomes x minus 1 divided by 3 minus 4 times 3 minus 2x divided by 9 is less than 5x plus 1 divided by 8. Yes? And then what happens? I multiply this 72 inside. But be careful. When I want to multiply, do not multiply it in the numerator. The whole point is to simplify. 3 in your head divided, you divide 72 by 3. The answer becomes 24. And you multiply 24 there. So it becomes 24 x minus 1. And then I go to the negative sign. 72 multiplied there, 72 divided by 9 is 8 times. And I multiply 8 here. It becomes 32. 3 minus 2x. And I multiply 72 also here. But before that, 72 divided by 8 is 9 times. I multiply 9 there. But I keep the sign as it is. Yes?
Couldn't you first do the distributive property at the top? Like the numerator, so you could expand get like easier.
You cannot simplify that, but you can do that because it is not being simplified. What do you mean by simplification? So you can write 12 minus 8x. Is that what you mean?
Yes, but then 12 and 9 can be divided by.
No, be careful. That's a very big mistake. Be careful. So if I do that, I am not allowed to simplify this with that. Why is that? Because if I ask you what is this expression is not read in a product form. You say this is the difference between 12 and 2x. So 12 is not a factor. If I have a plus b or a minus b, they are not called factors, they are called summands. And you are not allowed to simplify summands. You are only allowed to simplify factors. So here 12 is not a factor of the numerator. Even though I made a mistake, but it doesn't matter here. This should be x. 8. But I cannot simplify this with that because 12 is a summand for the numerator. I cannot simplify it. Yes. This is important. Be careful. Do not make this mistake anymore. This is very important because many people make these mistakes. We will talk about that later, but this at least you understand what's going on. So I would say this is probably the best way to do it. And then I have to multiply, yes? So 24 times x and minus 24. Minus 32 times 3 is minus 96. And minus 32 times minus 2 is plus 64x. On the right hand side, I have 45x plus 9. And then let us simplify. 24 plus 64 is 88x. And this one is minus 120. And this one we have 45x and then plus 9. And I have to move 45 to the left. I keep 9 there. I move minus 120 there. It becomes 120. Okay, let me continue here. 88 minus 45. What is the answer? 47. 3. And the other one is less than 129. But then I have to divide by 43. The other one becomes 3 exactly. So this one, should I change the sign? No, because I am dividing by a positive number. So I don't need to change the sign. So this becomes x less than 3. And then if I want to draw some diagram for that, I need to respect where the 0 is, and then somewhere here is 3. I need to go to the left, and I should exclude 3. So I need to draw a hollow circle, and then I go in this direction. Yes? So that is the representation of, that's a representation of this solution. Okay, any questions here? Okay, I don't think you will face these problems. I want to put these as home assignments so you do them. But let me describe a little bit about that optional one to see how we can do that if we need to do that. If we want to solve that problem, that is a double inequality. In principle, might be, I don't know, might be there are some exercises in the book like this, but I haven't checked that yet. But anyway, if I want to solve that one, I have to consider it two separate inequalities. Okay, so it means that I need to write it 2 times. X minus 5 divided by 3, 2x minus 5, and then I would write and. The other one is 2x minus 5 is less than or equal to 1 minus x divided by 2. Yes? So now I have 2 problems. Each one of them is actually even simpler than the problem that I solved. The numbers are so friendly, so we can immediately do everything in our head. So here, let me continue. I multiply everything by 3 to get rid of this fraction. This becomes x minus 5. This becomes 6x minus 15. Yes? So I multiplied everything by 3. The 3 that I am multiplying here will be cancelled by that 3. So nothing will be left except the numerator. But the 3 that I will multiply here will go for here and here. So this becomes 6x minus 15. And then what I do, I keep x. I move 6x to the left. And then I have this equality. I have minus 15 there. I move minus 5 to the right. It becomes positive 5. This becomes negative 5x less than negative 10. But then I have to divide everything by negative 5 to make x alone. But because I am dividing by a negative sign, I have to switch the sign. So it becomes greater than. Yes?
Can you repeat the first part? I missed it.
I multiplied everything by 3. When you multiply this by 3, the 3 that I am multiplying and the 3 here will cancel. So x minus 5 is left. And when you multiply this by 3, 3 goes here and there, you get this.
Why did you multiply by 3?
So that's the whole point of today's lesson. Yes? If I give you a fraction, if I give you an inequality with fractions, the first thing that you have to do is to get rid of those fractions. To get rid of those fractions, you have to multiply by the least common denominator. Yes?
What type of level of question will cover, like exam?
All of them. Yes, yes. A-level questions might be our harder questions. And then what I do, I divide by minus 5. You see that I flip the sign because I have divided by a negative number. So then this becomes x is greater than minus 10 divided by minus 5 is 2. So, but this is not the whole story. This is the solution of this part. I have to solve that one as well. Okay, so what I have to do again, I have a fraction, I have to get rid of that fraction. So I multiply everything by 2 here, yes? When I multiply the left-hand side by 2, I have to multiply here and there. So it becomes 4x minus 10 is less than or equal to, I multiply 2 here, that 2 that I am multiplying and these 2 will cancel out, and then I will have x1 minus x. Then I move minus x to the left, it becomes positive x, less than or equal, 1 is already there, I move minus 10 to the right, it becomes positive 10. And then I get 5x is less than or equal to 11. I want to make x alone, I have to divide by 5, but 5 is positive, so I don't need to be worried about changing the sign. I keep the sign as it is, and I divide 11 by 5. Even though here we can give an exact answer, but let us keep it as a fraction. I will call this one a partial answer, and this one also a partial answer, because this one only cares about the first inequality, this one only cares about the second inequality. But now the point is that somehow I need to find a solution for the combined inequality. And what you need to understand is to understand what is the meaning of and, by the way. What is the meaning of and? It means that I want to do something so that simultaneously they are satisfied. That is the meaning of and. When you say or, it means that you either make the first one correct or the second one correct. You don't have to make both of them correct when you use or. But when you use and, you have to make both of them true simultaneously. Yes? Okay, then this is very easy. It's not that hard. So, I would say that if this is the x-axis and this is 0, for this combined inequality, two numbers become relevant. One of them is 2, the other one is 11 over 5. So, for example, let me consider this is 2. You don't need to be very precise. This is 2. Where is 11 over 5? This matters, so you need to keep the order. 11 over 5 is more than 2. So that is enough. So 11 over 5 is on the right-hand side. I don't need to be worried about the scales and things like that, because I just want to draw a diagram for myself. Okay, now let me change the colors here. X greater than 2. It means that you start from 2, but hollow circle, because it is not included. And bigger than 2, you go in this direction. Yes, so let me just continue. Yes, it goes in that direction. Okay. But let me change my color to red, and then try to show this picture. I start from 11 over 5, but I go to the left. I can also include 11 over 5. So it means that I have a full circle here, field circle, and then I go to the left, but because I don't want to destroy the green one, so let me just draw it a little bit higher so that you can see that. Yes? So what does it mean? It means that if you want to satisfy only this part, yes, you need to only care about this. You have to be on the green line. If you are on the green line, this is automatically satisfied. If you are on the red line, this is automatically satisfied. But you need to find a way that you satisfy both of them simultaneously. So what is the answer? You should be both on the green line and the red line simultaneously. It means that you have to be that common part. Yes, so you cannot be, you have to be somewhere here. Yes? Because that is the only thing that satisfies both of them simultaneously. So it means that the final answer for this problem is all x's between these two numbers. But 11 over 5 is included, 2 is excluded. So I have to put equality here. So this is the final answer. I don't want you to memorize, I want you to really understand what is going on. Because when I ask you to solve that double inequality, I'm asking you to find all possible values that satisfy both of them simultaneously. For satisfying this one, this is the answer. For satisfying this one, this is the answer. But I want to satisfy them both. So I have to have the common part between them. And the common part is exactly what I have written here. So this is not the answer. This is the partial answer. This is the partial answer. The answer to the question that I designed in the beginning is this one. So you need to know how to combine them. Yes? Is that understandable? Have a nice weekend. Thank you.